YouTube channel and my home station and watch that conversation if you like. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Millions of people in California are under the threat of potentially deadly flooding. A high risk of excessive rainfall has been issued by the Weather Prediction Center for over 14 million people in Southern California today. The National Weather Service issued a flash flood warning for this morning for areas including Hollywood Hills, Malibu, and Beverly Hills. The prosecutor behind Donald Trump's Georgia election interference case is responding to allegations of misconduct. Fulton County District Attorney African-American Fonnie Willis, in a court filing, admitted she had a personal relationship with an outside prosecutor she appointed to manage the case against the former president. She denied claims, however, that the relationship tainted the proceedings. A hearing on the allegations is set for February 15th. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
When you get your biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt, prepare to shout, "Jackson Hewitt, yeah!" from the rooftops. In the event you don't get your biggest refund, you'll get your money back, plus $100.
Is this the takeover? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers are 5-1 on their 7-game road trip. They beat Miami by 8 on Sunday. Kawhi Leonard led the Clippers with 24 points, 21 points and 11 assists for James Harden. The Clippers wrap up their trip tonight in Atlanta, 4:30 tip-off. The Lakers are back in action today. They're at Charlotte, last game of their 5-game road trip, 4 p.m. tip. Another strong performance by USC freshman Juju Watkins. The Compton native dropped 29 points Sunday to help USC's women's basketball team win by 10 at Cal. Watkins has scored a combined 80 points in USC's last 2 games. Watkins is now the nation's number 2 scorer with 27.2 points per game. Iowa's Caitlin Clark leads the nation at 32.4. The Kansas City Chiefs and San Francisco 49ers arrived in Las Vegas Sunday. Super Bowl 58 is next Sunday at 3 p.m. on CBS. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough. 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 If we care enough.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and I am pleased to have you hanging out with us today. What an amazing conversation in that last hour with the oldest living survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre, Viola Ford Fletcher. What an honor to have her grace these studios. Hope you enjoyed that conversation. Once again, if you missed any part of it, the podcast of that conversation goes up later today. And tomorrow, you can go to our YouTube channel and actually watch that conversation. We'll post that tomorrow and give you another opportunity this Friday on the Best of Tavis Smiley. We will reprise that conversation. I can guarantee you that. That'll be one of our 3 hours this Friday. So you'll get a number of opportunities to hear that conversation in full if you missed any part of that dialogue last hour. It's going to be a great hour today to close our program in this third and final hour. 2 conversations on the backside of this hour. A conversation with Jamal Mayfield about his debut book, Smoke Kings. There's all kind of buzz on this novel. He is being referred to as a fresh and fierce new voice to crime fiction. It's a powerful and propulsive novel with an unforgettable cast of characters, and it really delves into this question. The novel is built around this. What would happen if reparations for African Americans were finally charged and exacted by force? That's the subject of the novel. It's called Smoke Kings. The author is Jamal Mayfield. He'll join us on the B side of this hour. As honored as I was to talk to Viola Ford Fletcher, I'm just as honored to talk to this guest right now. She is the mother of Amadou Diallo, Kadiatu Diallo. Sadly, we routinely these days talk about police killings of unarmed black men and women for that matter, but do you remember the killing of the 23-year-old student Amadou Diallo years before Black Lives Matter came to be? Fired upon with 41 rounds and shot 19 times by 4 NYPD plainclothes officers who later claimed to have mistaken him for a rape suspect from 1 year earlier. That was their story. The cops were charged with second-degree murder, later acquitted, which prompted outrage all across this country. I remember it well. And the issues of police brutality, racial profiling, and contagious shooting were finally put front and center so that his death would not be in vain. I am pleased to welcome the mother of Amadou Diallo 25 years after the murder of her son. In fact, yesterday marked the 25th anniversary of her losing her son, Amadou Diallo, and I'm pleased to have Kadiatu Diallo on this program. Ms. Diallo, how are you today?
How are you, Tavis?
I am doing well. If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. Thank you for asking. I am doing remarkably well. But my thoughts and prayers are with you. I was praying for you and your family yesterday on the 25th anniversary. How are you holding up 25 years later?
Tavis, 25 years later is a quarter of a century. My life changed on February 4th, 1999, and has never been the same ever since. As you well stated in the beginning, how Amadou was caught in that vestibule, was fired at 41 rounds and 19 bullets piercing his body. And that moment in time was echoed around the world. And I reflected and decided that these 25 years we have to go back to Wheeler Avenue with community leaders, young and old, those who protested with us, marched with us, Reverend Dautry, Imam Talib, the elected officials, and mothers, mother of Eric Garner, mother of Sean Bell, mother of Anthony Baez. We all mobilized and prayed there spiritually and walked to my son's former apartment building where he used to live, 1157 Wheeler Avenue. It is a very difficult history and painful history, but we must learn from this history, and we must do everything we can to stop this from occurring on and on again.
When we come forward, I want to talk about 1157 Wheeler Avenue and what it was like for you to go back to that apartment on Wheeler Avenue where your son once lived. I want to talk about what it is that we can, in fact, learn from history. Of course, I want to talk about the work of your foundation. A great deal to talk about. These anniversaries can be sad in a lot of ways. You heard her say a moment ago, her life changed forever in February of 1999. I can only imagine, I can't imagine what it's like for a mother to lose her child. It's not supposed to be that way. But 25 years later, she's still standing strong. You hear the fight back, and you hear her talking about how we can learn from this and do better into the future. I am honored to have the mother of Amadou Diallo, 25 years after his murder at the hands of NYPD officers, Kadiatu Diallo, on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
LADWP is proud to partner with KBLA to share with you how to start the new year without bill worries. We're here to help if you're behind on your bill or need help staying current. Sign up anytime online for Level Pay to set predictable monthly payments throughout the year, including for past due amounts. You can also check out the special extended pay arrangements of up to 48 months to help pay down your bill. If you're a senior or income qualified, you may be eligible for Easy Save to receive discounts and also qualify for free and discounted energy and water saving devices. You can get up to $15,000 for past due water and or sewer bills and up to $3,000 for electric bills. But you gotta act fast. Funding is limited. You can reduce your past due bills and kick off the year right, because here at LADWP, we're here to help. Visit ladwp.com/cares today and find out more.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of This Light of Ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This Light of Ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This Light of Ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
25 years ago yesterday, 4 NYPD officers in plain clothes snuffed out the life of a young black 23-year-old student named Amadou Diallo. I remember it well. I was in the media already. I've been at this for 30 plus years now. Started when I was 10. Been at it for a while. And I remember well when this happened, and there were a lot of conversations that we were having on radio and television and in the streets all across this country when they pumped 41 rounds and 19 bullets, 19 bullets into the body of Amadou Diallo. I am honored to once again, I've had this opportunity a couple times in my career, but honored once again to be in dialogue with his mother, Kadiatu Diallo, 25 years after the murder of her son. You said a few things earlier, Ms. Diallo, that I want to come back to. Number one, what was it like for you on this anniversary, this sad anniversary, to go back to 1157 Wheeler Avenue?
As I said, it was deep and difficult for me, but important. because it was at the eve of the Harmony Stop Act that was voted by the city council. We families as a organization, families supported.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the anniversary of the Stop and Frisk 15 years. We did a panel of discussion at NYU and the anniversary of George Floyd versus the city. So all these forums were organized around this anniversary of the 25th year. It's important to state that this was not just a past history, it's still happening.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's difficult for me, but I have the courage to continue to work with community families who were impacted so that we can put this issue front and center, because we cannot afford to continue to lose innocent people through law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
That's not possible. We are tired of this. It's been too long. And then the other reason was also to confront my own emotions, to be able to go to Wheeler Avenue and walk down the street where I imagine my son perhaps came from work that night and take the subway and walk on that road to go to the 1157 Wheeler Avenue where he lived and died. Yeah. I remember collapsing when I got to his place when he was killed. So on Saturday, I went the night before the anniversary, yesterday. I went with my family and friends, and as I said, all people, elected officials, and people rallied around us. We went to revisit that site.
Yeah.
We went to revisit that site to make New Yorkers and the world remember this history cannot just be brushed aside. It is concerning. It is. I remember you. We did the town hall meeting with BET.
Yes.
I know Reverend Shapton organized, mobilized people, and there was demonstration. Over thousands of people being arrested to protest police brutality.
Mm-hmm.
Since then and now, how many more victims did we have? We cannot even begin to count.
That's right. No,
so
right.
My journey is just to continue to push back and help with the cause, but also to set up a legacy for my son Amadou, a young student who came to this country with a dream. He wanted to go to college. He has saved enough money to enroll, and his dream was cut short. Through the Amadou Diallo Foundation, we work to honor his memory and also have his lasting legacy for Amadou. Young people are benefiting from the scholarship program, and we are organizing forums. We have on board even former retired NYPD officers who is African American. We are doing our part. Yeah. Each one of us, we are stakeholders in this cause. We are stakeholders. Each one of us can do something.
No, you're right about that. I want to talk more about the foundation in a second here, because you're doing some great work. As you were telling the story about going back to 1157 Wheeler Avenue, where your son lived and died 25 years ago yesterday, I thought about Christine King Ferris. Most of you know that just a few days ago, we lost Dexter Scott King, the youngest son of Martin and Coretta Scott King. Died of prostate cancer. And I should also mention, I tweeted this out, but I should also mention condolences to Joe Madison. Joe Madison is one of the greats in talk radio. Known Joe for years. We've both been at this for years in our respective spaces. He was on Sirius XM. But I've known Joe for decades now, and I was just saddened the other day when the news was announced that Joe Madison had passed away from prostate cancer. Another conversation for another time, but in the last couple of weeks, we've lost two high-profile black men, Dexter Scott King and Joe Madison, both to prostate cancer. So I'm coming back to that in the days ahead, rather. We're going to come back and talk about prostate cancer in black men once again, because we're losing too many black men to prostate cancer. But my point is, I mentioned Dexter because his aunt, Christine King Ferris, was Dr. King's sister, of course. And she was the last living member of that immediate family. Dr. King, his brother A.D., his mother and father all passed away. She lived the longest of the immediate King family. And I remember, having any number of conversations with Miss Ferris over the years. And after Martin was murdered in Memphis, she refused to ever go back to Memphis. She just couldn't do it. She just refused. Many, many times she was invited to Memphis to speak and to appear. And for all those years and all those commemorations, she never, ever wanted to go back to Memphis. She didn't want to go to the Lorraine Motel where he was murdered. She just refused to go to Memphis. And so I say that because I celebrate your courage, Ms. Diallo. I celebrate your courage in going back to Wheeler Avenue 25 years later, because some people just couldn't do it, and I make no judgment. I understand why Miss Ferris didn't want to go back. It could not have been easy to travel to a place and to a city where they murdered your brother. And so she chose not to, but your courage just jumps out at me. I feel your energy and what it must have taken for you to summon whatever you had to summon to go back to Wheeler Avenue. You mentioned that there were mothers of these other persons whose names we know who've been murdered. To your point, you're right. Too many murders since your son Amadou Diallo at the hands of cops. There's George Floyd. There's Eric Garner. I mean, we could run the list all day long, sadly. But you mentioned Eric Garner. You mentioned Sean Bell and their mothers. I'm just curious, when the mothers of these slain black men and women get together, and all the pain that each of you has individually, what do you say to each other? How do you console each other as mothers?
Thank you, Tavis. First of all, I present my condolences to both the King family and to Joe Madison family, because all of them have been in the Giallo movement. Like you said, it's difficult. I understand some people may not be able to go, but you wouldn't know how the person can react, or however you feel every day is different. We as mothers, we network, we call each other. We don't go just with the cameras. We talk to each other, we meet, and if one is down, the other one uplift the other. Every day we talk, we send text messages, we check on each other, and we really celebrate our children's life. We tell our children past stories, and we laugh and we cry. This is how we survive. This is how we've been able to make it. And for me, like you said, it was difficult to go back at Wheeler Avenue. But then when I saw Sammy, one young man whose brother was murdered in the same area, the Bronx, when I saw families that I knew coming into this grief, I just want to give them this energy. I wanted to mark that 25 years with going back to the site, because in the end, the legacy will live on, because we're working through the Amadou Diallo Foundation. But this was a moment that I needed to be in history, that we went back to the site. We traveled and went there, and spiritually held hand in hand with the families that have been victimized like us. That was a defining moment for me. Even though it was difficult, but I was energized and uplifted by the presence of these mothers who were there with me, these families. And 93 years old, Reverend Daughtry came. He came and he spoke. Imam Talib, who was with a cane, he came. And people who were not even born yet, they came because they want to learn the history. It's a legacy that Amadou left for us. We uphold it, and we continue to work towards the Amadou Diallo Foundation. I have a program in Africa. This year, before I went back to mark the anniversary, I went back to Guinea, to the village where my son was buried. I wanted to do it. So I went back and I prayed there with my relatives. Then I crossed back the ocean and came to New York to mark this occasion. That's a order of a century of history and a long list of victims after Amadou. You're
right about that. Speaking of victims, I'm watching my time. I got about 5 minutes left. I thank you so much for giving me this time, Ms. Diallo. I just got about 5 minutes left here. When you look back on what happened 25 years ago and the murder of your son at the hand of these cops, these NYPD officers, as you well know, and I mentioned at the top, they were acquitted. Eventually, there was a settlement for the family. So thank God that it was, in fact, a settlement. Of course, the settlement doesn't bring your son back. But when you look back on the fact 25 years ago that they were acquitted, how do you process that all these years later? And I ask that in part because while there's still too many deaths of everyday black men and women at the hands of cops, no question about that, you've made that point very clear, there have been a number of cases where we see cops being found guilty. We see cops being found guilty in the case of Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia. We saw them found guilty, of course, in the murder of George Floyd. There are others I could mention if I had the time. So things are not exactly what they were 25 years ago. Still too many killings. But the cops in your son's case were acquitted. How do you process that a quarter century later?
Let me say, thank God there has been accountability. That is a plus. But however, when Amadou was killed, it was pro-social media. We didn't have any, even the witnesses that testify at the trial were not able to, they tried to discredit the witnesses. But more importantly, because my son's case gathered a huge movement, so the cops defense attorneys argued that the case is a high-profile case. And we were victimized twice because the change of venue, the trial was moved from the Bronx to Albany. And that was a place where I was told no cop has ever been convicted on a shooting case in Albany. It was like moving the trial to a different country. So anyway, fast forward now, we have social media. That's the difference. That's the difference. Social media have played a major role. If you remember the video of George Floyd, the video of Ahmaud Arbery, the video of course, Sandra Brown, we didn't have any, I forgot how the case turned out to be, but it raised the consciousness of humanity. When you saw these videos, you see what happened. You don't just rely on what story the couple were telling you. Now you have the video. So social media have played a part.
No, I hear your point. It makes a difference. I hear you. I hear your point on that. Let me. I got 2 minutes left. Let me give you the last 2 minutes to close as you want. And you said earlier that you're doing this work through the foundation, the Amadou Diallo Foundation, because you want to make sure that we learn from history and that we never forget what happened 25 years ago. What is it that we can learn, sadly, from the murder of your son 25 years ago?
Thank you, Tavis, for having me. I'm honored. The last word I'm going to say is that Amadou was the catalyst of the movement. I want everyone to try to learn about Amadou through our website, AmadouDialloFoundation.org. Tavis, please list that up. I'm not able to say all the programs in detail, but we do have a school in Africa. We have programs there. And I also have a scholarship here. We have the forum that we do in criminal justice system. Please support the Amadou Diallo Foundation if you can. But also, if you need any program that you want us to partner to Africa, we welcome that as well. Website is there. So what we have to learn is the history of these young men that help to bring light about this issue that were happening prior to Amadou's case. That case helped to galvanize and crystallize the issue of police brutality. And I want people to never forget that.
We will never forget it. So long as I have a media platform, we will never forget it. And I'm always honored when you accept my phone calls to join me on television or radio for what I know must be difficult every time you think about it. But I'm grateful for the work and the witness that you've done since the passing, the tragic murder of your son 25 years ago, and I'm always honored to be in dialogue with you. That foundation, by the way, is called the Amadou Diallo Foundation.org. His name is spelled AMADOUDIALLO, Amadou Diallo Foundation.org is how you can get more information on what the foundation is doing and how you can support the work of the foundation. Ms. Diallo, thank you again for your time. My thoughts and prayers are always with you, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to our audience today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tavis. I'm honored. Blessings.
Blessings to you. Good to have you on. Oh, Lord. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, Making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Moore. Now, here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Supreme Court is scheduled to hear arguments Thursday about whether former President Donald Trump should be removed from Colorado's primary ballot, a case which will have implications for other similar efforts around the country. The argument to keep Trump off the ballot is that he violated the Constitution by committing insurrection on January 6th of 2021. Cops are revealing why rapper Killer Mike was escorted out of the Grammy Awards. The African-American Atlanta, Georgia-born rapper is accused of knocking down a security guard at the event Sunday night. Mike was booked for misdemeanor battery. Killer Mike won 3 Grammys during the pre-televised portion of the awards for Best Rap Album, Best Rap Song, and Best Rap Performance. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
When you get your biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt, prepare to shout, "Jackson Hew, yeah!" from the rooftops. In the event you don't get your biggest refund, you'll get your money back, plus $100.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers are 5-1 on their 7-game road trip. They beat Miami by 8 on Sunday. Kawhi Leonard led the Clippers with 24 points, 21 points and 11 assists for James Harden. The Clippers wrap up their trip tonight in Atlanta, 4:30 tip-off. The Lakers are back in action today. They're at Charlotte, last game of their 5-game road trip, 4 p.m. tip. Another strong performance by USC freshman Juju Watkins. The Compton native dropped 29 points Sunday to help USC's women's basketball team win by 10 at Cal. Watkins has scored a combined 80 points in USC's last 2 games. Watkins is now the nation's number 2 scorer with 27.2 points per game. Iowa's Caitlin Clark leads the nation at 32.4. The Kansas City Chiefs and San Francisco 49ers arrived in Las Vegas Sunday. Super Bowl 58 is next Sunday at 3 p.m. on CBS. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA member FDIC.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. If you say you care about the community, you have to also care about the climate. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment through the arts. Tia Chucha Central Cultural is on a mission to transform community in the Northeast San Fernando Valley and beyond through through ancestral knowledge, the arts, literacy, and creative engagement. The Northeast San Fernando Valley has a population of about 500,000, the size of the city of Oakland, yet it has no bookstores, art galleries, or full-fledged cultural spaces until Tia Chuchas opened its doors in 2001. Founded by renowned poet and activist Luis Rodriguez, Tia Chuchas Cultural Center provides a year-round free or low-cost arts and literacy bilingual intergenerational programming in mural painting, music, dance, writing, visual arts, healing art sessions, and healing talking circles. Activities also include Mexica, Aztec dance, indigenous cosmology, philosophy, and 2 weekly open mic nights, one in Spanish, the other in English. In addition, they host author readings, film screenings, and art exhibits. To express yourself, heal yourself, attend an event, or volunteer, please visit www.tiachucha.org. That's TIACHUCHA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We're for Washington. We love Febrez's new scent. Refresh and energize.
So much we made a song about it.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
We thank once again the mother of Amadou Diallo, Kadiatou Diallo, for gracing us today with that conversation and her presence on the 25th anniversary of the murder of her son, Amadou Diallo. Just grateful that she chose this platform to express herself a quarter century later. As promised now, we wrap today's show with this, a conversation, I've been looking forward to this one, a dialogue now with Jamal Mayfield about his debut book, Smoke Kings. I just love the title, Smoke Kings. The buzz on this book has reached a fever pitch, with Jamal Mayfield being heralded as a fresh and fierce new voice to crime fiction. The book, a powerful and propulsive novel with a diverse and unforgettable cast of characters, asks this question: what would happen if reparations for African Americans were finally charged and exacted, wait for it, charged and exacted by force? I am delighted to welcome to this program the author of the book that everybody's talking about, Smoke Kings, Jamal Mayfield. Jamal, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing excellent, Tavis. At first, I want to, thank you for that wonderful introduction, and also thank you for the service that you've rendered for so many years. You're an inspiration to me, and you've always talked about issues that are important to Black folk with intelligence and wit. So this is a thrill to be on the show with you today.
Well, it's a mutual admiration society, man. I'm a fan of yours now. It's an amazing book. And this audience knows, and for that matter, those who followed my work on television and radio over the years know that I don't do a lot of conversations with novelists for a couple of reasons. Number one, I always have a hard time not giving the storyline away. Number one, that's the first thing. It's too hard to know what to say and what not to say. You don't want to give too much away. That's the first issue. The second issue is that I'm a nonfiction guy. Obviously, I've written a bunch of books, and I love to read nonfiction. But every now and then, there's a novel that comes out that just grabs me by the throat, just grabs me, man. And Smoke Kings got my attention, and I couldn't wait to get into it. And it's an amazing story. I think one of the reasons Jamal, why it grabbed me is because, back to your fine compliment of the work I've tried to do in my career, my work in witness over the years, you grab a real world issue and you right. situate it in a fictional way. Let me just say, I have great respect. I've said this many times before. I have great respect for fiction writers. I'm a nonfiction writer, and okay, that's nice. But at least when I write a book, I know where I'm going. I'm starting with something, and I know right. what frame I want to be in. I know what I want to share about that particular issue. But you guys create something out of nothing, and in your case, you take a real world issue, real world issue that is, and you fictionalize it in a way that pulls in all kinds of readers that I might not ever get as a nonfiction writer. So tell me why you chose this particular issue to be the center of a novel?
Oh, that's a great question. I have to tell you, this novel kind of gestated for years before I even sat down to actually start writing it. One of the seminal moments for me, my little cousin was murdered in an act of violence back in 2018. And I remember at the time, we were standing on the street and having a candlelight vigil, and that's what happens when our young black men, die. We have the hashtags on Twitter or X. We have the candlelight vigils, the graffiti murals, and I just thought, boy, that's just not enough. And then we had 2 years later, the murder of George Floyd. And I like to tell everyone I watched all 9 minutes and I think it was 29 seconds of that video for my own humanity. I said, I can't turn away from this. I have to watch this. And then there was Kimberly Jones had a video that went viral. I saw it through the Trevor Noah show. And it's called How Can We Win? And she talked with such rage and such anger, but also such eloquence about the oppression and the systemic racism and how, we created wealth in Tulsa and it came in and bombed us. And, I had never seen that rage and that intelligence put together so well. And then she ended the video and she said, and they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge. And that line, it just stuck with me. And I thought, boy, what would happen if we were looking for revenge?
Woo! In
addition to the equality. And that's where Smoke Kings was born.
Wow. See, that's why I didn't know where you're going with that question, but I love when I ask a question. I get lucky every now and then. I ask a question and it takes me places I didn't even know we were going to go. But I'm always fascinated, Jamal, by the backstory for how these things come to be. Whenever I see artists of your ilk and your stature create a masterpiece like you've done with Smoke Kings, I'm always fascinated by the backstory, and I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't asked that question. So I'm glad now to know the backstory. The audience knows how this thought, to your point, gestated for years until you finally heard that line. As a matter of fact, so when you heard that line, I'm talking to you now as a creative. So you hear this line in real time. Creatively, tell me more about what triggers inside your head and heart.
Again, it was just, oftentimes when you're trying to create a fiction story, you're thinking about, well, what if?
Right.
And you're creating these what if scenarios. And oftentimes, I'm a fan of writing, so this is my debut crime novel, but I've been a reader of crime fiction for forever. And I've wanted to, step into the genre myself forever. So I spent a lot of time, listening to interviews from other writers, and they all talk about that spark, that what if. And they have that moment where the what if comes. And that was the moment for me. When I heard that line, I just, what? What did you just say? Let me rewind that and hear that again. And I rewound it and I listened to it again. And they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge. What? I mean, I was just I couldn't think of anything better.
Okay, so then
as a what if.
So then draw me a line, if to the extent you can, draw me a line from this thought, this what if pops in your head. All right, now we got a spark for a book here. You're going into the crime fiction space. We got a novel that you now know exactly, not exactly, but you kind of know where you want to go based on the spark that you feel and that you hear. Draw a line from that spark to then the characters that you start to develop.
Yeah, it's a great question. So now at this point, I know I have my what if, and I have to create this framework for how I'm going to present this.
Okay.
And originally, I kind of I drew inspiration from a novel that was out years ago called The Professionals by Owen Laukinen, and he had some young suburban white folks that were college graduates that decided to they were dealing with the economic depression that was happening during that period of time, and they started committing these kidnappings for their economic wealth. And I thought, that framework is great. I love that idea of a group. So I now knew I didn't want to have just one person enacting this. And I thought, kidnappers would be so difficult for one person to carry out anyway. So now I have to start thinking about this group. And so, the first the first character I actually came up with was Nate Evers, who is kind of like the de facto leader of the group.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this young kind of militant brother, intelligent, with a lot of the rage. And I thought, how can I take that rage and bring in that intelligence, like I said, that I saw in that Kimberly Jones video. So he was the first character. And then I just, from there we just started building out, who the other characters were going to be. Later on, once I got an agent, we actually changed one of the characters pretty dramatically. But, I had this framework of this group of 4 that dealt with a personal tragedy. And after that personal tragedy said, you know what, no more of the graffiti murals and the Twitter hashtags and all those things I said before. We're going to do something real and something severe. And it was a lot of fun to write those characters because of that.
Yeah.
And then the other, side of the coin is you need some antagonists. So I thought I want to have an antagonist that's a white supremacist that's just all around awful. But then I want to have a balance of a young white guy that is, long in the tooth and has had some experiences that kind of informed some of the awful thoughts that he has, because he'd be a little bit more relatable to folks, because racism isn't as black and white as, no pun intended, as black and white as we oftentimes make it.
Hold that thought. We got protagonists, we got antagonists, and we got the author, Jamal Mayfield, telling us that racism ain't always as black and white, pardon the pun, as we think it is. And he exploits that beautifully in this book, his debut novel. It's called Smoke Kings, and everybody's talking about it, as are we, with its author, Jamal Mayfield, on Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Jamal Mayfield, author of the book that everybody's talking about. It's called Smoke Kings. Beautiful novel written by this brother, and I'm honored to have him on this program. So, all right, Jamal, we got protagonists, we got antagonists, but what we really have here, though, is you beautifully and brilliantly exploiting this notion, this frame that you just put us in, that racism isn't always as black and white as we think, isn't always as black and white as it appears. To the extent you can unpack that without giving too much away, I ask you to do so, brother.
It's interesting, Tavis, and I went on a journey with these characters as well. And when I first sat down to start this book, I started this book from a absolute place of rage and anger. Again, I talked about that personal experience with my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about Philando Castile and Eric Gardner and Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown and just, on and on and on. It's just story after story of young black brothers leaving this earth through violent means, through racism, far, far too early. So I was coming from a place of anger. The original title of the manuscript was White Devils. and as I'm going on this journey, I start to realize there's so many nuances to this thing, which is why we still are dealing with it 60 years after Emmett Till.
Mm-hmm.
And so that journey was transformative for me as it was for the characters as I'm going through it. And then I got to a point where I started saying, all right, I want to try to, talk about these nuances of this issue in a way that maybe hasn't been talked about before. And I'm thrilled, we got in one of the early trade reviews from Kirkus Reviews, and I forget the exact wording, but they said, racism had rarely been dealt with as effectively as it was in this book. And that was the greatest compliment because I started to realize, again, as I went on that journey from that original Angry White Devils manuscript to what became Smoke Kings, there is a lot of nuances to this issue.
You mentioned Kirkus, which I saw, but I hope you saw that New York Times piece yesterday.
I did.
Man.
And then a Washington Post yesterday as well. So I'm so grateful to all the reviewers that have responded to Smoke Kings in such a positive way.
No,
humbled and grateful.
Oh, I appreciate that, as you should be, and as I am for this time to talk to you about it, humbled and grateful. But it was a big deal. I said earlier that everybody's talking about this book. You heard him just mention Kirkus in the Washington Post yesterday. That piece in the New York Times was massive. And he was the lead review yesterday. It was a big lead for Smoke Kings. So when I tell you that everybody's talking about it, I ain't just making this up. Everybody's talking about Smoke Kings. Now, while we got a couple seconds here before we continue our conversation, I'm going to think about and see what Miles, my board op, thinks about it. I'm not sure. Now that I know the backstory, I'm not sure which I like more: White Devils or Smoke Kings. Both kind of resonate. I can do a poll on that. Speaking of polling, White Devils or Smoke Kings. Anyway, Smoke Kings is the name of it. The author is Jamal Mayfield. Our remaining moments with him when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth. Speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
We all agree that America has a very serious problem.
Okay, KBLA delegation, we need your help as we launch our 2024 Climate Justice Campaign. We would deeply appreciate you going to our KBLA 1580 website and filling out a short climate justice survey, which will help us better serve our beloved community as we build out this campaign. It'll take you just a few short minutes to complete the online survey, and the information you provide us will be invaluable as we do our part to hold folk accountable and amplify the voices of our people in this climate conversation. When you take the survey, you'll be automatically entered to win seats at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. So, hit our website at KBLA 1580. Help us out by taking the short climate justice campaign survey, and you could be our guest at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. Thank you in advance for your consideration and cooperation. At KBLA Talk 1580, we care about the community, we care about the climate. We care about the climate.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
Sounds different. Huh. This is Tavis Smiley.
To the extent that it matters, Jamal Mayfield, Miles, my board op, and I caucused during that break, and he chose White Devils. I chose Smoke Kings, primarily because I'm thinking about your marketing. I don't know how you market a book called White Devils, but he chose White Devils.
Exactly.
I chose Smoke Kings. I'll let you break the tie, Jamal Mayfield.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Smoke Kings as well, but from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
And in all seriousness, the book, as I said earlier, I did go through a transformation as well.
Yeah.
And so that original rage, gave, fruit to something that I thought was a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more intelligent. That title came from a W.E.B. Du Bois poem called Song of the Smoke. And it just felt more relevant to what I tried to do with the book in that original title.
Let me close this conversation. I got 2 minutes to go, and I'll give it to you. Let me close where I began this dialogue. We began this dialogue. I was mentioning that I have great respect for fiction writers. I'm a nonfiction writer. And I'm going to ask you to jump out of the fiction lane to the nonfiction lane as we close here, and ask what your assessment is of the way that we do or don't talk about race in this country.
Oh, that's a great question. One of the things that I did for research for this book is I really looked into the Equal Justice Initiative, Brian Stevenson's nonprofit,
yes,
which is based out of Montgomery, Alabama. And, when we talk about race and we talk about lynching and things of that nature, we tend to regionalize it, and we make it a Deep South issue. And I was stunned when I was going through and looking at, because the Equal Justice Initiative did some deep dive work into research, and I'm here in New Jersey, and I discovered that there was a young man that was lynched in New Jersey named Mingle Jack, 5 minutes from where I live. And that was not something that I heard growing up. It was not something that I realized as part of our history. And I just realized as I'm going through that, this thing is more encompassing than we like to admit in this country.
Yeah.
And there's so many issues around it, and there's so many nuances to it. I had said to someone else one time, people get upset at rioters and things of that nature. Violent responses is probably more justifiable more often than we even realize, right? No one bats an eye when a businessman loses his job and comes home and he's trying to figure out how he's going to feed his family and keep a roof over his head, and he knocks the salt and pepper shakers off the table in a fit of rage.
Yeah.
No one is blown away by that, but we are blown away when a marginalized community like black folks that have been dealing with this since Emmett Till and beyond respond in anger. And so I wanted to, with Smoke Kings, take that anger.
Yes.
Again, as Kimberly Jones did in her video, channel it in a more intelligent way and have a more nuanced and real conversation around race than what we've seen in fiction.
I always bow down when I hear the name Brian Stevenson. I've known Brian for years, love and adore him, and he is among the best that our people have ever produced in this country. Love the work and witness of Brian Stevenson, as I love the work and witness in novel form of Jamal Mayfield. As I said, everybody's talking about it, and you should be getting your hands on a copy of it as quickly as you can. It's called Smoke Kings. Written by Jamal Mayfield. Jamal, congratulations on an amazing text. Good to have you on this program, my friend. All the best to you.
I appreciate it so much. And again, thank you for all your service through all these years. You're amazing, and this is an honor of a lifetime.
Thank you, sir. You stay strong. That's our program for today. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until then, thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Moore. Now, here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Supreme Court is scheduled to hear arguments Thursday about whether former President Donald Trump should be removed from